There's a specific belief that sets in after a few years in the wrong career. It's quiet, rarely spoken, but almost universal among people in this position. The belief is this: everything I've built here only has value here. That the skills, the knowledge, the hard-won judgment, all of it is somehow load-bearing for this specific building. And the moment you walk out, it crumbles behind you. What makes this belief so damaging isn't just that it feels true. It's that nobody ever tells you whether it is. This video is about that belief, where it comes from, why it persists, and why, for 5 specific capabilities you've almost certainly developed, it is simply wrong. Not wrong in a motivational sense. Wrong in a verifiable, evidence-based sense. The kind of wrong you can look up. 5 skills. Each one more valuable outside than in. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, and why the corporate environment you built them in was the last place designed to tell you that. Here's the thing that most career advice skips past. Corporate organizations don't price skills at market rate. They price skills at internal rate, which is a different calculation built around a different question. The internal question is, how much does this capability cost us to replace? The market question is, how much value does this capability create? Those two numbers are not the same. They're often not even close. Inside a large organization, certain capabilities get absorbed into the structure. They become expected, baseline, part of what the job description assumes. They stop being recognized as skills and start being treated as job requirements, which means they stop being priced as assets. But the market doesn't see it that way. The market sees scarcity. And some of what you do every day is significantly scarcer than you've been led to believe. The research on this is actually striking. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs data shows a growing divergence between the skills corporate roles reward and the skills that command premium value in a market that's becoming increasingly skill-driven. The gap isn't closing, it's widening. And sitting at the center of that gap are 5 capabilities that corporate professionals develop almost by accident and consistently underestimate. Let's go through them one at a time. Not as a list of reassurances, as a set of specific market arguments. The first is systems navigation, what you've been calling stakeholder management. Inside a corporation, the ability to move an idea through a complex system, to read the room, map the politics, sequence the conversations, get the right people aligned without triggering the wrong reactions, is called stakeholder management. And it is one of the most undervalued labels in the corporate vocabulary. Outside, it's called systems intelligence. And it's rare. Small organizations, growing companies, independent consultants, they often have brilliant people who cannot navigate complexity. They understand the idea but not the terrain. You've been operating in terrain for years. That's not a personality trait. That's a developed, transferable skill, and the market pays for it specifically when it can find it. The second skill is communication under constraint. Corporate environments are, in many ways, communication obstacle courses. You learn to make a case to a skeptical audience. You learn to compress a complex argument into an executive summary. You learn to write something that will be read by someone who has already decided they're skeptical and changed their mind anyway. Strip away the jargon, and what's underneath is a clarity skill, the ability to take complexity and make it legible. That skill is in extraordinarily short supply outside institutional structures. A LinkedIn analysis of employer priorities consistently puts communication at the top of the skills gap list, not because people can't talk, but because precise, structured, audience-aware communication is a product of environments that demanded it. You've been in one of those environments, worth pausing here to name something. These skills don't feel like skills from the inside. That's part of the problem. When you've been doing something for a decade, it starts to feel like personality, like just the way you think, the way you operate. It's not. It's built capability. And the market doesn't know the difference. The third is process discipline, what small organizations are actually paying for. One of the quieter advantages of corporate life is operational rigor, the ability to plan something, document it, execute it consistently, and learn from what worked and what didn't. Inside a corporation, this gets dismissed as bureaucracy. Outside, it's architecture. And it's what growing organizations desperately need. Consultants charge substantial fees specifically to bring process discipline into organizations that scaled fast and built nothing underneath. You have that capability. You didn't acquire it through a course, you acquired it through 10 or 15 years of operating inside systems that demanded it. The difference between that experience and a course is the difference between knowing the theory and knowing the terrain. The fourth skill is institutional credibility, the invisible negotiating asset. This one is least discussed and possibly most underestimated. A proven track record inside a recognizable organization carries weight that people inside the organization have stopped feeling. You've normalized it. It's just your job. But to a client evaluating a consultant, a hiring manager reviewing a candidate, or an investor sizing up a new venture, a decade of evidence that you operated at a certain level, in a certain complexity of environment, and didn't fail, that's not nothing. That's signal in a market full of noise. The WEF's skills transition research consistently shows that professionals moving from larger to smaller organizational contexts carry credibility premiums that open doors the opposite direction. Rarely does. You're not starting from zero on the credibility question. You've already answered it. The fifth one is different from the others. It's less visible, more counterintuitive, and in the current market, probably the most valuable of the five. It's managed risk decision-making, the rarest thing in rooms without a safety net. Corporate life forces a particular kind of decision-making muscle. You learn to make consequential calls with incomplete information, to weigh competing risks when none of the options are clean, to hold the tension between moving and waiting, and know, not perfectly, but well enough, which one serves the situation. Outside corporate structures, this capacity is genuinely rare. Entrepreneurs frequently have conviction, they less frequently have calibration. Freelancers often have flexibility, they less frequently have risk architecture. You've been operating with both, often without noticing, because the environment demanded it. The research on career transitions consistently shows that the professionals who thrive fastest in post-corporate contexts aren't the ones who had the most domain expertise. They're the ones who could make decisions in uncertainty and course correct without catastrophizing. That's a skill, a specific, developed, transferable skill. And you've been practicing it for years. So why didn't you know this? Why does the belief that your skills are context-dependent persist with such confidence for so long in people who are genuinely capable? It's not because the belief is accurate. It's because corporate environments are structurally incentivized to make sure you never test it. Think about what it costs an organization when someone with systems intelligence, communication precision, operational discipline, institutional credibility, and calibrated decision-making realizes the market will pay more for those things than the organization does. The answer isn't explicit suppression. It's something subtler. It's the absence of honest external feedback. It's the culture that defines your skills by your title, not by their market value. It's the annual review that measures performance inside the system without ever asking what performance outside the system might look like. The belief that your skills only have value here wasn't a misreading of your own capabilities. It was a misreading produced by a system that has a financial interest in that belief remaining intact. The mechanism has a name now, and named things are navigable in ways that unnamed things are not. What this video can do is make the case that the category exists. What it can't do, no video can, is map your specific inventory. That's a different task, and it requires looking at your actual history, the specific roles, decisions, and outcomes you've accumulated, and translating them into language the market recognizes. There's a structured audit in the description built exactly for that. A 45-minute process that produces a written document, what you're actually worth in market terms outside the role you're in, not someone else's version. Yours. Here's what matters about the repricing. It's not about confidence. It's about calculation. The decision to leave a career you've outgrown involves a risk calculation. On one side, the stability, the income, the known. On the other, the uncertainty, the gap, the unknown. That calculation is almost always done with a distorted asset column. People undercount what they bring to the transition because the environment they built it in never priced it correctly. Which means the risk calculation they're running is based on numbers that are systematically too low. Repricing the asset column doesn't make the transition easy. Nothing makes this easy. The constraints are real. The mortgage is real. The dependents are real. The age-related market dynamics are real. This video isn't arguing any of that away. What it's arguing is more specific. It's arguing that one of the most reliable inputs into "I can't afford to leave," the belief that you'd be entering the market with nothing, is not just wrong. It's measurably, documentably wrong. You're not entering the market with nothing. You're entering with 5 categories of capability that the market price is higher than your current employer does. The question isn't whether those assets exist. The question is whether you've done the work of knowing what they're worth. That's a very different starting point than the one most people in this position believe they're at. If this video opens something you want to take further, The Transferable Skills Audit in the description is the next step, a structured process for mapping your specific inventory into market language. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Which of these 5 felt most invisible to you? The one you genuinely never thought of as a skill. The belief that everything you've built here only has value here didn't come from an honest assessment of your capabilities. It came from years of operating inside a system that had no reason to tell you otherwise. The 5 skills in this video aren't a motivational list. They're an argument. A verifiable, evidence-backed argument that the asset column you've been working from has been systematically undercounted. That doesn't resolve the transition. It doesn't make the finances simple or the conversation with your partner easier or the market timeline less uncertain. What it does is change the shape of the problem. Because when you know what you actually have, not what your title says you have, not what your employer recognizes, but what the market will pay for, in specific terms, the question stops being, do I have enough to make this work? And starts being, what would it take to surface what I've already built? That's not the same question. That second question has answers. The years weren't building the wrong thing. They were building something the institution never had to price correctly. The mechanism has a name now. And the market will, not someone else's version of this, yours.